Good evening. I'm sitting here with Alex Baumann from Telekinetic Yeti, and we're going to chat a little bit about music and Dubuque, I think, maybe a little bit. So, man, was Drift your first band?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But you guys were writing your own stuff. I mean, even then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did you figure out that was like a thing that you wanted to be doing?
Well, I really got into music when I was around 10 years old, guitar specifically. And, going to shows locally that you threw, was a big inspiration for me to want to get into writing my own music, really, because before Drift, I did jam around with some friends. It wasn't anything too serious or whatever, but we were just doing like covers and stuff. In fact, I remember you doing shows down at CDs for Change, and I think I reached out to you about doing covers or something, and you were talking about how much of a joke that was to write your own music and stuff. And honestly, I do think that kind of kickstarted me into thinking more about that. And then also, just going to shows, like you had shows at CDs for Change, International Waters. Those guys blew me away, just...
And they were just a few years older,
Yeah.
I mean, like we all were. I mean, just weird. Those guys in particular, they were pretty good musicians.
Yeah,
they were writing at a certain level.
Yeah,
it was pretty sweet.
It was really good. But I remember specifically, actually, I was going to Hempstead at the time, and they played a show there, and I think that was maybe the first time I saw them. Actually, in fact, maybe even before I think that kickstarted me to go to CDs for Change to see them.
Yeah.
But just, I don't know, it just really blew me away, and I was just like, wow, like, this is just, I don't know, something I want to delve into more, and, stuff like that, but yeah, as far as, like, local inspiration, and, like, delving into kind of the writing your own music, and doing local shows, that, the CDs for Change stuff,
and then
International Waters, I'm trying to think of some of the other bands you had down there,
Well, it was like Hot Carl or maybe my own like Grain Belt or something like that. There were a few.
Detachment Kit.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. A couple was at the bar talking about Detachment Kit, and we went on a tangent about the band, and I don't know if those guys are out there still making music, but I hope so somewhere.
I actually looked into this recently. I couldn't find anything new that I could see, but.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer, but I mean, those guys were awesome too. But just going to these shows, I don't know how to explain it, but I definitely think as like a young kid or whatever, just living in Dubuque, I kind of felt like an outcast a little bit. I didn't really know where my place was, and I feel like I started finding that in these local shows.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I hope that. I mean, that's definitely was part of the point. So we get. Let me see if I get the order right. Gunpoint Crush, Lost Apparitions, Wretches.
Yep.
Which you guys... Lost Apparitions is the first one that starts touring, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
and you guys...
so Gunpoint Crush started branching into doing some like more out-of-town stuff, but never really did actual tours. And then... Lost Apparitions, we started delving into actually going out and doing.
And you guys did like
actual tours. It was
fucking the whole country, right?
Yeah, we did all over the place. It was all just self-booked and just whatever. And some of the shows were good and some of them weren't that great, but we learned a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of like not even non-traditional venues, right? Basements and
we did
skate parks or whatever. Like
house shows, whatever. Like. And I don't know. It was a cool experience. But I will definitely say, with Yeti now going on to actually having a booking agent, I think really helps a lot.
Yeah. Well, it definitely takes a bunch of fucking stress off your head. I mean, that's...
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit, the tiny bit of booking that I've ever done for another band or something like that has always given me anxiety, you know, tons. And I mean, you guys, I remember looking at some of the itineraries and I'm like, holy fuck. Like, you guys are doing that all through like what? Just, you know, email and text and...
So in the Lost Apparitions days, yeah, it was all basically just emailing. There's a website, Indie on the Move.
Yeah, yep.
And we just like look up all the venues in the town we were trying to go to and like hit up like 10 of them and send them, you know, links to our music and everything and just see if they'd be interested in having us.
Venue databases are like gold.
Yeah, it really, it definitely helps a lot for like newer bands or bands that are, you know, just doing it all independently.
For sure. When did you notice people, did it happen kind of with Lost Apparitions, or when did you notice people were like starting to like, this, you know, the same crowd was coming out, like people were really starting to like pick up, and you know, it seems like every band has had their own sound, but you're the kind of like central figure to it. So, I mean, it's like people are kind of like they're excited about what you're going to do. I think. And I mean, did you notice that like as you guys toured, or?
I don't know. I guess just like the bands that I've been in, most of them for the most part, I've been, you know, one of the main writers, if not the main writer, you know.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say most of them I was the main writer. You know, I'm bringing in the riffs, writing the lyrics, vocals, whatever, and that's been like a consistent thing through almost all the bands I've been in over the years, because I was also briefly in Prosthetic Face, which
playing bass,
which I wasn't the main writer in that by any means. I was just adding bass, you know, and stuff like that. And I briefly played with Sludge Burner.
That
was after Wretches. Just did like a couple shows with those guys, and I was just adding some second guitar, but not really doing the writing for those guys. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I would say that, well, even back in the Gunpoint Crush days, I feel like even though it was just at Dubuque, you know, and, you know, whatever, like a lot of people were coming back. Like people were starting to, like we were starting to actually have some fans. I felt like
it's interesting. Like and this, you know, the songs like were pretty catchy too. So it was like, I mean, you have a knack for kind of figuring out how to write like different styles, man. Like it's like I wonder, like, how long does it take to put together a Yeti record?
Well, I guess it depends, but so the first couple albums, like the first one took a couple years. The second one took about a year of, you know, during those times being pretty focused on writing, just, you know, music all the time as much as I could when I wasn't working and stuff. Sorry, kind of not sure where I'm going with this.
Do you write at home and then send it to Rocky, and then he kind of like?
Yeah. So like with Primordial, our most recent album, it was interesting because we were going through you know, some lineup change stuff during those times and whatever, but basically Rocky was living in Minnesota at the time, so I was sending him a lot of ideas, and then he was like figuring out the drums and what to do, and then we met up. It was really only like a few like chunk long, like, you know, like a week here, and a week here, and then we went into the studio.
Wow.
So it was, I guess, I was, you know, doing the majority of the writing with that, and then Rocky was, you know, adding to it. However, we also have a song on our album Primordial, Invention of Fire, which that one Rocky wrote drums and sent that to me, and I put guitar to it. And
how's that? Because that would have been kind of new, right? Like,
yeah, it was amazing. I think it's one of the coolest songs on the album. I like all the songs on there, but I don't know. I like that. Like, most of our songs it starts off with riffs. I'm improvising and noodling at home by myself until I come upon something that, or express something that I think is worth delving further into, and just start developing that, and then either program drums or send it to Rocky. We've been getting him like more and more involved in the process, as we continue.
There's always cool sounding guitar shit on a Telekinetic Yeti record. Has that panned out into any kind of like sponsorships or anything like that? Or like,
like, we are technically sponsored by Orange. They've been helping us out, and we haven't really made a big like official thing about it or anything like that, but they have been helping us out in the background, so that's been cool.
That's awesome. What about are you still on TP or?
Yeah, so with Primordial, we technically, like, it's licensed. We've licensed the music to TP, so they're taking care of all that for now, for X amount of time, basically.
Okay.
So we're not like, it's not like we have to only release through them now or anything like that, but we'll obviously talk to them. And in the future,
there's a relationship, and they're putting out the record,
exactly,
and like getting you distribution too.
Exactly. So, it's been really great working with TP. We've been happy with everything, and also Dave from TP actually just passed away, and he's a really big, in TP, really up there. So I don't know. It was so recent that I don't even
that was a wave of. Some of my favorite musicians all just, paying respects. That was sad.
Yeah. It's like definitely really shocking. And, we still don't know exactly what's going on with TP. As I understand, they want to continue and everything, but just so recent.
Well, you're just not bothering them.
Like, exactly.
They will reach out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but that leads me to you guys went to UK?
Yeah.
How was that?
That was really cool. We didn't get to sleep very much, but it was as amazing as it could be for being over there in the UK with Weed Eater and not really sleeping very much.
Was it just a festival or was it a tour?
It was like a week tour.
Okay.
We did do Desert Fest London. Us and Weed Eater both played. We were in different buildings at different times and things, but yeah, we both played, and that was one of my favorite shows that we've played ever. It was
it like, what was the venue like? Was it like an old fucking building? Like, was it?
Yeah, I actually feel horrible because I'm drawing a blank on what the venue was called. There's a few different venues they had with all the Desert Fest stuff going on, and I'm drawing a blank, but a lot of various iconic rock bands and shows have gone on there.
Oh man!
And again, like I said, I'm drawing a blank on it.
Yeah, that's all right.
But yeah, so it was really cool, and for for me, that was our first time over there in the UK. It was our first time in London, and we're playing this stage or whatever at Desert Fest, but again, there's like 2 other rooms or whatever, and like a lot of amazing bands there, and it's like, okay, well, hopefully, we didn't know what to expect. Like, that's some pretty big competition if like Corrosion of Conformity is literally playing at the same exact time and stuff like that. But when we played, there was a line out the door and the place was completely packed, so it was it was just everything you'd hope it was.
Yeah. Did you feel and I guess it's a stereotype that I have in my head that of UK, Europe being more open and more enthusiastic about the show? I mean, were they, or do you even see a difference between the U.S. and I'm sure it changes night to night.
Yeah, so we technically haven't done Europe yet because the whole the thing with the U.K. or whatever and Brexit. And stuff. But all I can say is that, you know, I guess my perspective of the UK is with us supporting Weed Eater and Mars Red Sky. You know, so I would just say every show was packed and amazing and, you know, everything you wanted it to be. I guess the only thing that stunk a couple times was a couple of the shows. It was like we were first and they had to start right the second doors opened.
Oh, wow.
So it was a little weird to like start
People
your first song and there's like 10 people in there and then it's like filling in as you're playing. But that was like a little weird, but no, it was great overall. And I don't know. Yeah, people were very supportive over there. And maybe more so than the US. I don't know. You know, from what I hear with these other bands we've toured with, like Left Lane Cruiser, they've done Europe, Weed Eaters done Europe and stuff like that. Yeah. And they just say that you get really taken care of really, really well, you know, by the venues and things. Like they have a place for you to stay. Yeah. They're going to take care of food.
All that stuff's built in.
It's all built in. Where with the U.S. stuff, like we've done, there's been plenty of times where we were on, you know, a tour with some really big band and there's very little hospitality still sometimes. And you're like scrambling last second having to, you know, have someone go on a run to just get dinner.
Yep.
You know, so it can be a lot.
It seems like you guys tour with Weed Eater quite a bit.
Yeah.
How is, I mean, you guys buddies? Like, is that a cool thing?
It's a really cool thing. Like, it's like, you know, the first tour we did with Weed Eater was in 2017. So it's crazy to think that that's already like 7 years ago. And, I'm trying to think how many times we've gone out with those guys now. It must be like 5 or 6 or something. I don't know. It's been a lot. But yeah, I just think that we relate to them a lot and just like get along with them really well. It's just really chill and we're all like pretty laid back about things. So it just makes for a really chill tour and like no one's like stressing if something doesn't go just perfectly. Where some bands that you tour with are a little bit more like they're just not as laid back about things.
Sure. Have you learned? I would imagine you've learned like a lot of just not even like super noticeable things, just like ways to go about while you're on the road, and ways to probably not lose your mind. You know, although you've done a significant amount of touring prior to all that, so it's like you've probably worked it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like being on tour and not losing your mind. I think part of what's hard about it that a lot of times people I think don't think about when you're thinking of the dream of it is all the 8-hour days or longer. You know, especially on the West Coast. Yeah. You know, day after day after day of that.
It's 8 to 10 hours every day.
Single day. Like, you know, you gotta like find ways to deal with it. Like, and you know, different people have different ways. Like the Weed Eater guys, those guys will just sleep the whole drive. You know, they'll stay up all night, sleep the whole drive. Mm-hmm. That works for them. As silly as it sounds, like for me, like, you know, weed when you're on tour is an absolute lifesaver. Like to make the drives not as boring.
Yeah, I could see that.
To be able to rest in the van.
Yeah. And I mean, you're amped up after a show. It's like,
that's
you know,
the other thing too is that's like for me personally, like I really like to smoke weed, but I started to become more of a daily smoker out of more of like medical reasons. Like for instance, like with us being on the road, it becomes a problem when you get back to the hotel room and you're just so full of adrenaline and you cannot sleep no matter what. So so how are you dealing with it? You're drinking beers and then waking up feeling like shit.
Exactly.
And then you're losing your voice.
Yep.
And then that just doesn't work.
It wears your body down. I mean, weed at least. I mean, it wears your body down too a bit, but it's at least going to put you to sleep. So it's not going to probably hurt in the morning.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. It
is. It's a really good thing. And for me personally, too, as someone who struggled with insomnia for most of my life, to the point where sleep doctors were prescribing me Ambien and gabapentin and all this stuff that's 1,000 times worse than weed, like, no question.
Sure. Well, prescription drugs. I mean, just in general, man.
So, and then it's like, I can smoke this little plant and just insomnia is never an issue, huh? And we're gonna like throw people in jail for it in some states.
Exactly. Keep them in there. Yeah. Yep. All that. So what's this run that you're doing right now? What is this out? Is there a big show? Is it just like a getting out there with Bonginator?
Yeah, we're getting out there with Bonginator. I know there's a couple like fest type things, I guess. Unfortunately, I actually haven't gotten to delve too deep into what it was exactly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's for the most part, it's just us just doing kind of a regular headlining tour.
Cool.
Mostly just kind of normal, regular shows with Bonginator.
And it's like, what, 2-3 weeks? What is it?
It's like, I want to say it's like 18 days. It's basically like 3 weeks.
Cool. Right on.
Yeah, so we're just kind of going to start heading east, and then, go up into Canada.
And you haven't been there for a while. Is that true?
Excuse me. Yeah, so Canada, I'm trying to think. We did one show in Canada. I want to say it was Montreal in May with John Garcia.
Oh, cool.
So that was really cool. And then last year we did, I'm trying to remember. We did one Canada show last year as well. And I want to say that it was West Coast though.
So it's sparse. It'll be good.
Yeah, exactly.
Hit a few places.
The most extensive Canada tour that we've done was all the way back in 2017 when we hit several towns up there with truck fighters. So yeah, it's been like 7 years since we've done more than just one show a year, basically, in Canada.
Do you have anything coming up that's cool in the works, or anything you can talk about, or?
Well, in the background, this year we've been starting to, start getting a move on getting ideas and things for the next album. So kind of behind the scenes, that's kind of why I was saying before the interview, I live under a rock a little bit. I've just been
writing,
just writing, playing guitar a lot. And one thing too, I guess if I could give any kind of a tip out there to just musicians in general, as to one thing that's helped me is I think that I'm just, with my bands as they've gotten more successful in things, I think I've just been getting also pickier about what I want to release. I think that's just a big part of it too, is I think a lot of times people get in bands and jam with their buddies or whatever and think you just got to put out everything that you make.
Yeah.
When you really don't. I think it's good to think a little bit more about the songs. Even with a song, you don't have to stick with the first version of it you made. You could revise it. Yeah. Or make it better, or, whatever. And then I feel like I spend a lot more time listening back to my ideas and reflecting on them and than I used to, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
In my
self-editing is not a bad. Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, as much as I love free music as well, where you're just coming off the top of your head. I mean, I love that too.
Me too.
But self-editing is not and crafting. I mean, which is, what I assume you guys are, you in particular have been doing. You craft, you have a knowledge of these different, you're a great guitar player, and then
thanks.
Somehow instinctively how to write, I'm going to do this, mm-hmm. And now you're doing, and the Yeti stuff is just, it's all coming together in a way.
Thanks.
And people. It's cool that people are really like responding to it.
Yeah, no, it's really amazing. There's like, I don't know, getting to this point. There's definitely like there was a lot of points I could have given up, and there were points that I did give up or took breaks. From things, but
and you gotta.
Yeah. And that's good actually sometimes too. That's another thing I gotta say too about like writing and stuff is like sometimes I think if you're trying to be really serious about it, you can get into a thing where you feel like you need to write all the time. But like sometimes I truly think that time off can be just as beneficial, if not more beneficial. You know what I mean? Like taking a break and then just going out and like living your life and like making a point to experience new things and just whatever, and also just taking care of your mental health and stuff like that too. And then you come back to it, and I feel like it's almost like your brain, like I don't know, your brain has these ideas there all of a sudden.
Yeah,
like,
new clarity.
Clarity. Yeah, it's interesting. Where, I guess that's a funny thing too, of that fine line of music being fun and then becoming like work. Like maybe overly so. I do feel like it's kind of a tough fine line.
Yeah, it's a balance. I mean, I can imagine, particularly for people that have expectations or, people are looking for the new Yeti record. I can understand that would draw a little anxiety or a little worry about like, well,
yeah, it just puts more pressure on it. I think it does because like we've gone out, we've been touring a lot over the last like 8 or 9 years or whatever, and like a lot of people are interested and it's growing and everything, so I don't want to let people down. I want to, like, I'm doing this for myself, but I do want other people to enjoy it too, so it can be a little tough. But I think that again, I think that's the other thing too, is music I think can be an infinite pursuit. Like, there's always more that you could be doing with it.
Yes.
You could always work harder and everything, or like do more or whatever.
Yeah, it never ends. I mean,
it never ends, exactly. So it's interesting trying to find that right balance. But I do think that a lot of it comes back to, why did I get into playing music in the first place? Having fun with it,
Are you still doing that?
Yes. And I think it's an important thing to be aware of, again, it's just it's a balancing act in some ways, and it can be really tough too, like the being on tour all the time and trying to make everything work with like side jobs or this or that. It can be really tough to keep your mental health okay, and you're away from home all the time and stuff like that, but
it's just
it's a sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice. I hope it's worth it.
It is though. Exactly. But that's the thing too, is like going on tour for me. It's just such a like soul fulfilling thing that I don't know. It's just it just brings a lot of purpose to my life, I guess, and things like that. So despite all the sacrifice, to me, it's still worth it. The pros greatly outweigh the cons, But I guess I'm just trying to show that, I don't know. I guess I just think that a lot of people think that if you're in a band and you're going on tour, that you're just on vacation all the time.
Right.
And they don't understand that it's a lot of just time stuck in the van, time in truck stops.
Giving of yourself,
being away from your wife or your girlfriend or your family, friends. It does take a toll, and it can get tough. But sometimes you just need to know, like, when to take a break or just chill out or focus on other things.
Right on. Well, Alex, I really appreciate you talking to me, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Cool. Let's head over to the place, do the show.
Sounds great.
Cool.